Food retailers have seen a massive spike in pensioners stealing over the last year. Kingdom Services Group provides security services for hundreds of stores across the country. They estimate that 5% of people they catch shoplifting on a weekly basis are aged over 50. Their head of retail says that in his 30-year career, he's never seen this before and puts it down to desperation in a cost of living crisis. Suzy, should they be treated any differently to the rest of us? Should we cut them more slack?
I mean, look, ultimately, shoplifting is wrong and we should come down hard and tough on shoplifting. However, I think this is like a very kind of, I don't want to just say niche, but we're talking pensioners they're not stealing luxuries here. You know, they're stealing, like, essential food items.
Do we know that?
Well,
sure,
I mean, this is what's been reported. You know, this is what's been reported. So I think, for me, I'm just like, if you're looking at a section of people that are very vulnerable, we've got a massive cost of living crisis. Now, don't get me wrong, I hear what I'm saying. Shoplifting, we should come down hard on. We should protect shop workers, you know, really, really important, because there's been a rise in violence against shop workers. You've got to protect shop workers. But we're talking about a very small group here. And the word that stands out to me there is desperate. You know, people that are desperate. They're not, like, again, they're not stealing luxuries. They're stealing, like, you know, a loaf of bread or whatever. Yeah.
This is John Nussbaum, who's the Director of Service for Retail at Kingdom Services Group. He's made that link, hasn't he, between saying that these are people over the age of 50, actually, so not just pensioners, because that includes me, as it happens, who are desperate. And he's put it down to the cost of living crisis. I wonder do we know that, Albie? Do we know that that's why they're doing it? I mean, the ageing population means that there are more people over 50 than there ever have been in this country. So should we cut them slack?
No, we shouldn't cut them slack, absolutely not. Look, every person that commits a crime, you could probably make an argument that there are some extenuating circumstances there. If we look at a lot of the people who are in jail nowadays, they're people from vulnerable backgrounds, they're people from terrible circumstances. If you apply this principle that we are going to let people off because we feel sorry for them, we'd never send anyone to prison for anything, because I'm pretty sure in most cases there are some extenuating circumstances. We need to be coming down hard on people who shoplift. The amount of times I go into a shop and see someone shoplift is unbelievable. I was in Greggs at Hammersmith Tube Station the other day. 2 young boys walked in and just took something off the shelf and no one did anything at all. Now, are you seriously saying in that situation we should let them off because they're two young people? Or if they were older, if it was someone that was Matt's age going in and doing exactly the same thing, which I have also seen, let's let them off because they're over 50.
No, the fact is, look, we should come down hard on all crime. We've all been victims of crime.
But not pensioners stealing.
No, we should come down hard on crime and we should come down hard on shoplifting. I think this is a tiny group. We're talking about a tiny group here of vulnerable people. And we're not talking, you know, stealing, again, luxuries. We're talking about, like, out of desperation, stealing food products.
Like saying it's okay to steal.
Interestingly, they already let these people off. I know we're having this debate, but already they're lenient towards this group because they know, actually, this is a vulnerable group, they're stealing. Yeah, so I agree with you. We should always come down hard on crime. We should always come down hard on shoplifting. But actually, do we want to be taking up police time with, you know...
We're dealing with thieves. Well, yes, I think we do.
I mean, how many shopkeepers, how many shop owners are over the age of 50 as well? And if you run a convenience store, the margins that you're working on are tiny. It takes very little to be shoplifted, to be taken from your shop, for you to make no profit that week at all. At some point, you have to crack down, and it's not for you to make that decision, it's for the courts, isn't it, Suzy?
Yeah, look, this is the thing. Look, this is a difficult, you know, it's a difficult argument to make, but I think what I'm saying is, when I hear we've got a cost of living crisis going on in this country.
That affects everyone.
We've got people that are vulnerable, we've got people that are struggling financially. We're not talking about people, like, stealing, again, luxury goods here. We're talking about people stealing, like, a loaf of bread, stealing things because they're desperate. And I think all I'm saying is, do I think that those people should be taking up police time? No, I don't. Not when we've got, like, crime rates in other places going up. So I think that's where I come on it. But I do believe that we should be tough, generally on crime. Yes, I mean, as I say, I've been a victim of crime.
We have a foundational principle in this country of equality under the law. And when we start saying we're going to treat different groups of people differently because we feel sorry for them. That is when you start getting these accusations of two-tier justice, which are so damaging to societal cohesion and the criminal justice system in this country. And then people lose faith with the entire system, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Can I say,
and your idea just makes it worse.
No, do you know, it's not. I'm not saying, oh, this is something we should legislate or have a policy on. I'm just saying they already do this. They're like an old lady that steals, like, I don't know, a jar of jam, which is kind of what they're saying here, or whatever, some tea bags. They're basically saying that they already are just a bit more lenient towards them and they treat them a little bit more differently. But I hear it's a hard argument to make.
Let's take some calls and see what people think out there. Helen's in Great Yarmouth. What do you reckon, Helen? Should we take it easy on older shoplifters?
Well, it all depends sort of like what they're shoplifting. If they're shoplifting like everyday essentials, then I think they should be able to have it lightly because Labour is taking all their money.
OK, are we talking about the winter fuel allowance by any chance?
Well, they're stopping a lot of things, aren't they? And in all honesty, they are struggling every day. So
but Helen,
getting sort of like the essentials is important to them.
So what we have is a system then when anybody over the age of 50 can go in and as long as it's tea bags, sugar or milk, they're entitled to it. Is that where we are?
Well, I don't think they should be sort of like jail sentences or community service just because that they're sort of like shoplifting a loaf of bread or some jam.
Those are the punishments. You're unlikely to get a jail sentence for one instance of shoplifting, but if they don't apply to the over 50s, then what does that make everybody else feel about it? What do they think about walking into a shop and taking something?
Well, for me, there's sort of like food banks and stuff like that. But elderly people can't go to some of these food banks because they don't have the necessarily ID sort of like to get food stamps and stuff like that. OK,
so typically they would be for people on sort of gateway benefits, things like pension credit and universal credit. So I would imagine that older people in need, there is a system, there is a structure there that allows them to be referred to food banks and also receive other helps as well. We're going to take another call. Leslie's in Kent. What do you reckon? Are we too tough on people absolutely in need, vulnerable people in need who feel that they have to get the essentials that way? Leslie, what do you think?
Personally, I think that no group should be exempt from punishment from shoplifting. There are avenues to help pensioners. The government need to step up and help them a little more. But you cannot have groups of people in the country that are exempt from what is essentially a crime.
So pensioners now, they've got the triple lock on their pension, which means it rises with inflation. Are you saying that's not enough for a lot of people to be able to cover the basics?
No, it isn't enough for many.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it isn't enough for many. I'm a pensioner, and it isn't enough for many. But there are other avenues that could be explored, perhaps reduce prices for people over a certain age. But it's up to the government to step up and help this group of people.
OK, why is it your pension doesn't cover what you need, the basics that you need, Leslie? Because when I look at it as a sum, as a weekly sum, that's it. What's made the difference? Is it the cost of energy, of gas and electric?
I think possibly those are some of the things, but I think people aren't as good these days as they used to be at managing their money. And also there are many avenues out there with these companies, these utility companies, where they can give you help. But my essential message is that nobody should be exempt. You can't have groups of people who are exempt from crimes, even though it might be a crime of desperation. It just doesn't make sense. The law must apply to all of us.
Thank you, Leslie. That's interesting what Leslie's saying there. It's not necessarily that they don't have enough money, but that they are not skilled in managing it. And you would have thought that would be something that characterises that age group, that they've grown up, they've had a lifetime of experience of knowing how to handle money, but they can't.
I mean, look, that is a big problem in this country, that we kind of teach kids, or we teach people about English, math, science, and we don't teach people basic skills about budgeting and whatnot. So I'm sure that does apply. But I agreed more with the first caller. Obviously, that these are people. I'm not even saying that this should be like, as I say, like a policy. The point is they've said they've never seen this before, never seen before.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? This is unusual. This is a group that are vulnerable.
Let's take one more call. Denise is in Merseyside. What do you reckon, Denise? Is it something you see? Have you seen people shoplifting over the age of 50 because they're desperately in need?
I wouldn't say they were desperately in need. I did see a lady once in a Marks and Spencer store around Christmas pick a turkey up and put it in her bag. She was very drunk at the time, and I just went to an assistant. Oh, and I told her, I said, please take that out of your bag now and put it back.
OK,
said,
that's not desperately
that.
in need, is it? That's...
No, that isn't.
Yeah.
But there was... I was at a big supermarket a few months ago. My husband dropped me off, and I found myself very stressed because I'd done a basket full of shopping, not a trolley. But when I come to pay, I didn't have my banker's card and my phone with me.
OK.
So I was quite distressed about that. So I went in the end to customer service and asked them, could they try and contact my husband? And I explained, I can't pay for me shopping. And because I was so distressed, the lady there, she just said, don't worry about your shopping. She said, we'll give you the shopping.
Wow.
They took me down to the cafeteria and got me a black coffee. And when I calmed down, I actually found my phone with my card.
Well...
But I'd got myself so waked up. But they are willing, if you are in desperate need, go to customer service and they will help you.
You know what? And that sort of connection, that kind of understanding is what we're talking about. People can sense when you're desperate, I think, a lot of the time, as long as that goodwill is not exploited and abused. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, guys.